welcome to the Your Love Rara podcast. My name is Emma. I'm your host for today. And today I have a very special guest. She is an Aberdeen City councillor, a model, a mum, a mental health advocate. We have Claire Imrie with me today. Hello.
Hi, and thanks for inviting me. It's very exciting.
No problem. I'm so happy to have you on. I've got lots of things to ask you about. So first of all, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background, where you're from, where you grew up.
Okay, so I've been living in Aberdeen for a while. I moved up here when I was 16, 17, so that's a while. But originally from London. So I moved around London, mother and father, excuse me, in the military. So yeah, I just grew up in London and I carried on education in Aberdeen as well. So I was never really sure what I wanted to do, but just moved around, and then oil and gas, and then into politics.
Into politics, yes. And you were a model. When did you kind of start modeling and doing all that fun stuff?
I don't do so much modeling nowadays. I think lockdowns probably helped with that, with the extra weight. But no, I used to do lots of modelling for TV, for adverts, my own portfolio, and part of an agency. And I've done that for many, many years. So it's catwalking, bridal modelling, and part of show business. A lot of people have their own portfolio as well for casting and theatre and work like that. But yeah, I do miss that because that was. I like that kind of work too.
Yeah, that sounds lots of fun. And when did you decide to get into politics? When did you make that decision?
Well, when you run as a councillor, it's every 5 years. So my time, excuse me, I'm a nurse in a sore throat. My time is due to end in May next year. So around that time, 5 years ago, I thought, right, now I want to stand. Politics was never really at the forefront of what I wanted to do. But then more things came up on the news and things, everyone started speaking about lots of things that I thought I could make a difference locally. And with my background with being in a theatre, I had a knowledge of understanding the culture in the city and the drama, and it also gave me the confidence to be able to speak and to perform. So to stand up and talk about something and mean it, even though I was scared, I could pretend that I wasn't. And then with being involved in lots of sport, I was doing runner, kickboxer, loved the gyms, various gyms. So I had a knowledge of sports centres and things in Aberdeen. I was a dog walker in the park, so I got and running, so I got to see all the parks around my area. And also my son was in education school, so I felt like I had lots of fingers in many Aberdeen pockets, and thought, well, maybe I could make a difference, and I understand what Aberdeen probably needs. And by speaking to that many different types of people, I could try and make a difference.
Yeah. And so when you ran 5 years ago, what were your aims for your career and just for the city in general? What did you want to change, and what did you notice needed the most change?
To make an actual change is really, really hard. You can make sometimes small differences, which in the long run make a change. I think at the time, I didn't know what changes I wanted to make. I think I just heard from constituents, because that's all you do. You listen to people. And I think that's the main thing, is listening to people, making sure that they're heard and trying to put their voices across. So it was just really small things back then. And that was things like dog mess in the streets, try and clear up our streets. Potholes was a huge one. Sometimes overgrown trees and small things. But then one of the biggest things that really shocked me was, I suppose, a year into, not even that, 6 months, I suppose, into doing what I was doing. Someone came to me, a constituent, and said something about mental health. They wanted help with mental health. What was I going to do about it? And I said, you know that I'm a counsellor and not a medical counsellor. And she says, yes, I know exactly who you are. I want to know what you and the politicians are going to do about mental health in Aberdeen. And it threw me, but it also made me think that I need to look into this. I need to find out what charities, organisations, what we have in Aberdeen, as joint up what we can talk about, what we can promote and push out there for people in Aberdeen, because there's probably lots of charities and organisations, but not many that are readily spoken about or advertised or pushed to people that are in need. That's where I've become within my role, is mental health ambassador, because I've looked into it and tried to excuse me, work alongside all these people and find out more.
That's amazing. And so have you noticed in the past 5 years a real change in mental health awareness, support within Aberdeen in the city?
I've noticed that lots of charities and support groups are popping up now, and I think they're massively helping, which also you can see it more excuse me, on social media. So because it's always spoken about, I'd like to say, and I hope that makes it less of a stigma, but yet there's still very much a huge stigma behind it. You speak to some people that don't get social media or don't see what we see all the time. And with the algorithms, we're always going to see these things, because I like a lot of these things and I look at them. But lots of people still don't understand that mental health is in all of us. You know, they see that is a huge stigma. So I think that's part of my challenge as well, is going forward, is to take away the stigma, make everyone talk about it, because it's so wide, it's so variant, that we all can be affected with it sometime, and especially lockdown has made us, you know, understand that this can happen.
Yeah. And what challenges have you kind of faced as a politician throughout the whole pandemic in the last year and a half? Have you found that it's been more challenging than ever in the past 5 years?
I think it's hard, because I would usually like to be more sort of humane when it comes to my approach. I don't really like Zoom much. I don't like having every single meeting on a computer. I like to be really there, really present, and I think that really helps people. So when it comes to constituents who have come to me to have my time or one-to-one in the office, or even walk in a park, or just meet someone, that's what I've missed, is speaking to people and going door to door, or just that sort of humane approach. Yeah.
And you've spoken a little bit about how you have a theatre background. I also have a theatre background. I love theatre and getting involved in Amdram in Aberdeen. Would you say that's definitely had an impact on your confidence and your outlook on life throughout your career?
What, since I started as a politician, or just generally?
Just generally, yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I think for many reasons, I've always loved performing arts since I was a little girl, and to my dad's dismay, thinking, oh, you can't do performing arts. I've always done it, and I've always studied it, and then I've carried on and occasionally got paid for it. And yeah, it's hugely helped my confidence. So whenever I've been scared when it comes to other jobs or doing presentations, I think it's given me the gumption and the confidence to stand up there and pretend I'm someone else, and to use the sort of the body language. And people have said to me, you're so confident. Actually inside, am I? No one really knows that, because it's learning how to keep this front of I'm confident. And it's about self-belief, self-talk, and you'll know that, as performing arts girl. It's really helped me. And sometimes it's made me, when you believe something so much, you become that person.
Yeah.
So it has helped. Yeah,
that's really cool. I definitely agree with that. It's definitely helped me in a lot of ways with my confidence. And do you feel any sort of pressure as a politician to deal with that responsibility of having to take care of your constituents?
I think when I first started, the pressure was quite immense, but now it's learning. Over the years, I've learned how to sort of filter that pressure, or how to deal with it better, should I say. You don't have to try and fix every single thing. You don't have to be liked by every single one. But that is me, and you can't change that. And I think that's when it comes to my skin being so thin sometimes. You kind of want to draw people in, and as a politician, and also listen to them and take on their advice, take on their issues or problems. But yeah, it's hard. So that's a challenge in itself. Mm-hmm.
I can imagine. Yeah, I think I always deal with responsibility where I do kind of feel the pressure, but it's always good to have that little challenge. It makes you stay a bit thicker.
But at the same time, I like pressure. You know, I wouldn't like to have a job that there's no pressure, there's no adrenaline, there's no sort of excitement. And that to me is what makes me tick. I like a little bit of, you know, everything's due tomorrow. So I like that.
Yeah.
And same with performing arts. It's always a bit of adrenaline, last minute learning lines.
Yeah.
That's how I roll.
And, you know, so you are a counsellor, you're working, but you're also a mom. You know, how do you find that work-life balance to also have time for yourself as well? Is that a challenge for you?
Again, when I first started doing what I was doing, I found it tough and I wasn't sure how to balance it. And considering I had a baby during being a politician, so I had a teenager and then I had a baby in between. That was tough because there's not many women in politics that have babies and carry on and do their thing. But I did, and I managed, and now I'm finding time to do everything, because I think it's finding your priorities and getting them right. Of course, my work is so important and I'll always make time, but my first priority is my family. So I make sure that everyone's okay and they're happy and things is covered, and especially with, you know, COVID, it's hard when you've got children running around. And I really feel sorry for the mums and dads. Excuse me. Yeah, it has been tough to balance it.
Yeah. And oh, I forgot my question. Being a woman in politics, have you noticed kind of any prejudice, or do you feel like things are kind of changing for women in politics now?
I definitely think things are changing for women. Women are more welcomed. There's always room for women. You know, I think you're encouraged for women to come on board in a sense. There's actually more women needed because women's views really matter and really count, you know, as men does too. But we need that mix of women and men. And the ratio is still very much men heavy. Mm-hmm. And that's what I found. I think sometimes it's daunting going into a room full of men and feeling like, will I get listened to? Will I get understood? Can I get my point across? Yeah. And that sometimes does seem harder, but sometimes it's changing your way of dealing with it, changing your way of saying it and being, you know, and putting it across. But it does feel like a challenge sometimes, but I think people are warming to the idea of having more on board. Yeah.
I think it's definitely changing, especially in the past few years with, you know, Me Too movements and all that stuff going on. Yeah. I have noticed a lot more women in politics, and it's really good to have that representation, because representation is really important.
No, definitely. I'm proud to do what I'm doing and to manage and to say that I'm doing this job, a mother, and I have my hobbies as well. Yeah, I you know, I'm happy.
And because you are, you know, mental health ambassador, you know, you're dealing with, you know, all of this stress of, you know, your job and being a mom. How do you take care of your own mental health and your own kind of self?
It's a good question, because what I used to do for my own mental health was my singing, dancing, and acting. That was my thing. Mm-hmm. My friends, my out of friends who weren't involved with that, weren't involved. And that was my thing. So to go to a night and rehearse for 2-3 hours for a show was hard work. It took me away from reality, you know, and it just de-stresses. And it's the same when you're doing kickboxing. You can fight it out with a bag. That was my thing. But then when that was taken away from me through lockdown, it was only then that I realized I did that for my mental health. You know, so then I had to find something completely different. What can I do to make me feel me again? Me feel I've got a purpose and that I'm going to be okay. Because it was only during lockdown that I felt like my mental health was suffering. And it's because all the good things I'd always gone to, I maybe took for granted, that was my thing, had been taken away. So I've now found, luckily, things in painting, in house decorations and upholstering and things like that. You have to find something else that, you know, that takes away from work life and family life. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's so weird. You don't realize how important those hobbies are to you until they're taken away and you realize just how important they are in keeping you sane. Yeah, they're so important. And what are your plans for the future? Do you have any more kind of goals in a career in politics?
As for politics, I'm not sure yet. Excuse me, his cough. I'm not sure. I have another year to decide. But my plans for the future is definitely going to be finishing my master's. I'm doing a master's in counselling. So again, counselling for mental health. So I plan to finish that and work alongside that, helping people, because what I was going to mention before, it seems every role I've had, every discipline I've worked in, I seem to have fallen into the category of mental health. And even if that's been the surrogate wife, in the sense of just spoken to everyone and helped them, or the friend that someone hasn't got, or even at weddings, I seem to have someone cry on my shoulder that I've never met before. So maybe I found a way that, you know, that's what I'm good at. That's what I feel my place is in life. So, you know, never say never, and never worry about changing a career in your 40s. And that's what I'm exactly doing. I'm pursuing something that I feel that I have kind of fallen into in everywhere I've gone and worked, and carrying it on now, and that's in counselling and mental health. So that's what I want to plan to do.
Yeah, and it must feel really good to have kind of found that purpose in mental health and taking care of people. It's a really cool thing to have.
Yeah, I enjoy it. It gives me so much satisfaction that I can help people or make people see things the way they maybe should, maybe clearer, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. So my last sort of question for you, I was wondering if you had any advice for people who want to get involved in politics, or, you know, people who are maybe struggling with mental health, just general life advice.
Well, if you want to get into politics, contact me via email. I can tell you what you need to do. It's not just a straight one-liner here. As for mental health, again, it's really important to speak to friends, speak to people. I say there's lots of things on social media. Sometimes social media can be damaging for your mental health. So it's important to find some kind of thing that works for you, and speaking up, listening, and just seeing what's out there, and joining as many support groups as possible, and feeling like you're part of something. Yeah.
That's amazing advice. Thank you, beautiful chat. I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you too for having me.
Perfect.